smash the guitar.
Hello. Yeah, you are back. We are back again. The usual suspect.
We were here last night in these same seats. A different film, but
Tomorrow we'll do Breathless.
tomorrow, yes, a different
There
film.
is no the surprise movie tomorrow?
We're working on it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. The Stooges. Are great. The film's okay, but the Stooges. I've known Jim Osterberg for 25 years or so. I'm very honored to be friends with him, and he asked me maybe 8 years ago, we were somewhere talking, and he said, you know, in the next years, there are going to be a lot of things coming out about me, some films, some books, and he knew, I mean, I love Iggy Pop, I love his whole musical career, but I am a Stooges fan. I love the Stooges. And he said to me, you know, if someone would make a film about the Stooges, I wish it would be you. So about 5 minutes later, I was already thinking, how do I do? I'm going to make a film about the Stooges. So we started 7 years ago, really, making this film. And Carter Logan produced this film. We worked very hard. We had other projects in between. We ran out of our own money for a while, and so we stopped and we made a film called Only Lovers Left Alive. Then after that film, we started again working on this film. We stopped again to make a film called Patterson, which we're so proud is being shown here also, or was shown here. And then we finally finished Gimme Danger, and it was a lot of work to clear all of the rights, excuse me, because it's a kind of collage of things, and it took, well, a year and a half just to get the rights to all the photographs and film clips, and we worked very hard to find footage of the Stooges that no one had seen before. There isn't that much footage of the Stooges. We found some photographs that no one has seen before, and we had amazing editors who really shaped this film. Afonso Gonçalves and Adam Kernitz. So finally we have the film, and we were very happy that Iggy liked it. So we were like, okay, all right, we're gonna show it, we're gonna give it to the world then.
You started in Cannes, I remember, with Iggy coming.
Yes, our world premiere was in Cannes. We had Iggy in the Grand Palais in Cannes, which was pretty wild. In Cannes, they have a thing called a photo call, where you go to this place where all the photographers are in a little area, and Iggy Pop dived into the photographers. And they were ecstatic. They never had anyone do this before. He was in there like this. He was swimming around among them and on top of them, and they were very, very happy. So it was very unusual. And then for the premiere in Cannes, we had nice suits, and we looked pretty good. And Iggy said, I will wear a suit, but I will not wear a shirt. So he wore a suit with no shirt, and excuse me. Anyway, those are our Cannes stories.
Yeah.
And Carter, you started, you know, the producing this movie like completely independent, without any help, without anything. It just.
Yeah, it was just really in the very beginning, it was me and Jim and a little bit of his own money. And from the moment he got that call, he called me and I said, you know, let's just start working on it. Let's start researching. Let's start figuring out what this film is going to be. Where there's no real idea beyond that. I think the original concept for it was, Jim said, yeah, well, we should at least go down and talk to him and bring an audio recorder. And I said, well, if we're going to bring an audio recorder, let's at least bring one camera. And then one camera became 2 cameras, and we got a DP, and we got a couple other people to help shoot it. But the core of it was really, we took a trip down to where Iggy lives in Miami, into his little kind of crash pad. It's not his real home. It's just his kind of like man cave house that's full of Stooges stuff and all of the weird art that I don't think his wife likes. And we sat down and interrogated him for 2 days straight. And I think part of what Jim was saying, you know, the fact that they'd been friends for 25, almost 30 years, lent a level of intimacy to the conversation, a casual kind of demeanor that he doesn't normally have with other people. So we left that kind of knowing that we had something that was a little bit special. And from there, I guess Jim went about reading through and making a kind of paper edit of that, grouping the film into thematic subjects. And so then we had some themes. And we kind of did some more research and put it away for a while, like he said. Then we went back and said, okay, well, who else do we want to talk to? And we have to get the other band members. We don't want to talk to anybody outside of the band. That was decided sort of in the very beginning, except for maybe Danny Fields, maybe Kathy Ashton, keep it kind of in the family, so to speak. We just didn't want to have a documentary that was a bunch of other people talking about how great they are. We had the opportunity to actually talk to some of the band members while they were still alive. We've since lost Scott Ashton and Steve McKay. Sadly, we started the film not long after Ron Ashton had died. We shot at a memorial tribute to him, and it sort of just started to reveal itself from there.
And I have to say, I have a real distaste for a trend in documentaries about people that dig into the dirt and they want to expose all the ugly things, and I don't like that. I like respecting artists for what they gave, and I like appreciating the things that they give us, and we're not ignoring certain problems that the Stooges had. Obviously, we're not referring to their problems with drug use and other things. But I don't like this kind of documentary procedure that is finding all the flaws of people. You know, this is a kind of celebration of really one of the greatest, most innovative rock and roll groups, in my opinion. And I wanted to make a film that celebrates them. And there are certain films I won't start mentioning that I find very distasteful, that dig into the dirt. You can look for those things in other places, but our intention was not that kind of film. So I love the Stooges. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Akron, Ohio, and when I was a teenager and I first heard the first Stooges record and the MC5, they changed me. They gave me something. This was music from working class, innovative rock and roll that was wild. It was different. It was not the hippie music from the West Coast. It was not peace, love music. It was not also, as much as I love the British invasion interpretation of really rock and roll interpreted, you know, blues from America being transformed into rock and roll, which I love. But this stuff really spoke to me and still does. So I just wanted to make a film that celebrates that part of celebrates the Stooges and what they are. And they are musically very innovative, very revolutionary, and I wanted to show their influences from avant-garde music, from Harry Partch, from avant-garde classical music, from outside jazz. And these things did, they're a weird combination of something very primitive and something sophisticated as well. So Iggy said to us a few weeks ago, we were talking, and he said, the fans of the Stooges were either like stoners and losers or sort of intellectuals, and there was nothing really in between. And, I guess I'm sort of both of those things myself, but
Yeah,
I love the Stooges so much. I just wanted to celebrate what they mean.
Yeah,
And that's the intention of the film. We didn't want Henry Rollins, no disrespect. We didn't want these people talking about what the Stooges mean or music critics. We just wanted the family of the Stooges to have some, say some things in the film and illustrate it as best we could.
Yeah, I think just to add to that the music is really a testament to itself. I discovered them at a point in time in which I'd already been exposed to punk rock and hardcore, and I got my hands on a reissue of Raw Power, and it blew everything out of the water. It just destroyed everything that I had heard before in terms of powerful music that could also have dynamics and heart and emotion, and lyrically was far beyond anything that came after it in the so-called punk period. It blew me away, and I think it still holds up today. And you see them after having reunited in 2003, and they were bigger than they ever were. So I think it's got legs.
And the rock and roll that's referred to in the film is a bit subjective, because for me, as a teenager, the things that spoke to me really were the MC5 and the Stooges, and then this very kind of strange light from the East, which was the Velvets, the Velvet Underground. So these are the things the film these are the three bands we kind of refer to. Not so much about the Velvet Underground, but there's certainly something very important to me also, very formative, and I love the Velvet Underground also very much.
Questions now?
Quite nervous, but in the movie, like Iggy Pop asked when he was learning drums, when he asked for advice and the guy said, "Play it like you mean it," I would like to ask you, to someone who just wants to make movies, what would be your advice? Like, what would be the first thing you would say to them, Like some kind of rule, Yeah, thank you very much, and I love your movies.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm not good at advice because I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning every time. But I would say that you should, and I feel funny saying you should, because I don't know how to tell someone else, because I believe that as many people as there are who make films, there are that many ways to make a film. And so I think the most important thing is to follow yourself, follow your instincts. Don't make the film for other people. Make the film for yourself. Every film that I have ever made, it's not I who have made them, but my collaborators that we have made, we have always made them, what kind of film would we like to see? And don't worry about the world or what people will think of your film. Just think about what you would like to say, what you would like to see. And I think it's very important to trust your instincts, and also never be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, because the mistakes are the things we learn the most from. And sometimes the mistakes in the film, sometimes I've made films that, or we have made films that people, they'll say, oh, this was a beautiful thing in your film, and the thing was a mistake or an accident, you know? You don't always plan everything. And if you do make a mistake, you learn from the things that didn't work. And the things that work are often mysterious. So just do it and follow yourself, and don't be afraid to make a mistake, or don't be afraid ever to fail, because failure is how you learn things, you know? But I'm not a teacher, I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So I would just say, follow yourself and what you think, and see what happens.
And just make it. Don't wait for someone to give you money. Don't wait for someone to tell you that you can do it. You can do it. Just make it.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it, man. I had my close friend, Joe Strummer, who I love very much, who's gone now for over 10 years. I still ask him advice, you know, and I still hear him tell me things. And sometimes he'll say, oh, you don't want to do that one, man, you know, that's what they want you to do. But I hear him say, just do it, you know, don't wait for them to tell you it's all right, you just do it, man. And he gives me advice a lot. I really appreciate him. And he also, one of Joe Strummer's rules was, you must take in other things to make something. So Strummer's law was no input, no output. So you have to be open to a lot of things, and then they will feed you. So, but I'm terrible at giving advice. I'm sorry. But I wish you luck. Just do it.
Another question?
Well, these documentaries are really about the narrative of sound, like beauty in chaos. So my question would be like, when you're just a big fan of a musician or a band, how do you choose to tell the story through sound? Like, what was your approach to choose when to use this song or when to use No Fun?
Wow, I don't know the answer to that. It's kind of instinctive, and it kind of unfolds as you go along, and I find that all films, whether I'm not a documentary filmmaker, I'm more of a narrative filmmaker, but for me, whatever you capture, you then let it tell you what it wants to be. And this is my procedure with narrative films. We have a script, we have actors, we film things, but we don't always know the order of the scenes. In the editing room, the film kind of tells you what it wants to be. And with a non-narrative film, a film like this, which I don't know if it's a documentary as much as a kind of essay, it is, we gathered what material we had, and then we kind of, we waited for it to tell us what to do. With the Stooges, again, there was a limited amount of existing footage, and so the sound corresponds with that. And we chose specifically, Carter and I we had a discussion about, there are two versions of Gimme Danger, the title song. One is live and one is in the studio. And we chose to use the live version for the opening titles because it's more raw, and the film is kind of raw. You know, it's not a very slick film, and so we preferred to use the studio version at the end and the live version in the beginning. But that's a terrible answer. I don't think I answered that at all.
One of the interesting things about this film is that a lot of documentaries, you know, whether or not it's about a musician or anything else, they have a composer. They have someone come in and fill in little stings and stabs and underbeds of music. Well, this film, 95% of the music is the Stooges. what Jim and the editors and the sound editor, sound designer did was they took the Stooges' actual music and used it for those kinds of things. When you have a punctuation in this film, it's always, you know, a snippet of Ron Ashton hitting a guitar from a song, or James Williamson, or there's a, you know, drum break of something falling apart that's not going well, that's used to illustrate something else, not specifically that song, not used narratively, but rather as an under kind of score to help you feel something. What they did is they mined this catalog of Stooges music in order to construct that. And I think that there's something that imparts to the sort of saturation of the sound. There's a few other little things here and there where, oh yeah, well, there's no piece of Stooges music that quite sounds like this, where we used a couple little things, but 95% of the music is Iggy and the Stooges.
I really enjoyed the documentary, especially how much you can tell how much you love the band. And my question or curiosity was, if you could choose to make another documentary about any other musician or band, who would it be?
Wow, I don't know. I'm waiting for someone to ask me. The only two music films I've made were by two people that I really revere. The first, I made a kind of concert documentary about Crazy Horse and Neil Young's band. And Neil Young asked me to make that film. And now Iggy asked me to make this film. I don't even know how to answer that. I'm waiting to see who might ask me. I hope it's not Bono.
Thank you. You know, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Carter.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you all for coming. We're very happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.